The micro, small and medium enterprises, they play a critical role in the economic development of any country. Actually, here in Kenya, you're talking about the contribution of this sector to our GDP is almost 25%. And when you look at jobs, you're talking about almost 85% of all jobs in Kenya are generated by this critical sector. And so, what is Kenya doing to advance and to help in the development of this important industry? This week on Inside Government, we are talking to the Cabinet Secretary in charge of cooperatives and MSMEs development. This is FCPA, Wycliffe Oparanya. Thank you very much indeed, Buonasias, for joining us. I mean,
thank you.
The importance of this industry cannot be gainsaid. And so, as a government, what policies have you put in place to ensure that there is perpetual growth of this industry?
First of all, this country has recognized these small businesses. Let me talk in general, because sometimes when you talk of MSMEs, some people don't understand what it is. Because I've got this chance to be here, let me call them small businesses. And when we talk of small businesses, there are those businesses that involve at least one person to 100 people. Either a business you are doing on your own, or a business that is able to employ up to 100 people. And to the Kenyan standards, this is quite big. You talked of GDP contribution. Actually, it's not even 25%. It's upward, about 30% upward to about 40%. It's not only in terms of GDP, but also in terms of employment. It employs quite a number of people, 80% of the people in employment. In Kenya, we have about 17 million people in employment, but the total employable people are about 20 million, out of which 3 million are either underemployed or not in employment. Out of the 17 million, 2 million are employed in the regular national government or county governments. 1 million, 2 million employed either national government or county governments or government agencies, entities. 1 million is employed by big companies. So you can see that this is a very major sector for our economy. And in fact, in the bottom-up transformation agenda, it has been identified as one of the pillars of development in this country. What is the government doing? I think that was the question. I had to give the background so that now I can answer your question. The government has taken several measures. One, the East Africa community recognized the importance of this particular sector and came together as East African community and came with a particular protocol. So what we are doing here, it is only not only for Kenya. We are also doing for the entire, the other East African countries are also doing the same. It is only that Kenya is ahead of them because of our level of development. The first thing is that to make sure that these particular small business are formalized, because most of them are informal. So if they are in the formal sector, it is very difficult to help them. Until now, you formalize, you put them together, you capacity build them, you tell them how they will do the business, and they are licensed. And you find that most of the licensing is done at the county level. Yeah. So when they are licensed, then now they are in the formal sector. They can be registered as taxpayer. They have a code and so on. So the first thing the government is doing is to make sure that they are formalized so that they can get the necessary support. Secondly, after formalization, we must identify where will they do business. So we must now interact or interact with the county governments, because most of these SMEs, they are all over the country. So the county governments play a very important role to identify places that they can do their business. Before, the national government used to do it through Kenya Industrial Estate. So there are Kenya Industrial Estate sheds all over the country. And these were the premises, and the premises are still there. So some of them come out from there. After that, then you have known who they are, where they are. Then now you have to make sure that they access finance. So, and that's why government has come up with very many financial models. We have support from the World Bank, from other development bank. There are too many players within this particular sector. So we must make sure that they have access to finance, and this finance is also affordable to them. And that's why we have funds like Hustler Fund, to make sure that these people have access to the finances. And when they have had finances, they are now producing their products. We must make sure that there is market for these particular items that they are producing. But before even they reach there, we must also capacity build them. They know how to handle the finances, the basic bookkeeping, they know them. And then now we can move them into production, and then we look for the market, and also make sure that they have the necessary skills to produce, because as they produce, they are competing with others. They are competing with others in East Africa. So because this is now a common market. So we must make sure that the goods they produce, they are of high quality, that they can be able to export them. And then lastly, that there is common information. They have information about the market. They have information about the skills in the market. They have information about the product. So information is also important to them. Now, finally, what we are doing, we had not organized these particular MSMEs together. Now we are going to carry out a survey to know who is where, so that we are able to put them together. And when they are together, if they are not able to afford some of the machinery, assuming they are in manufacturing, we are able to give them machinery so that they can access that machinery, what we call common user facility, so that they can now progress. So the government is actually doing a lot, and I can talk and talk and talk.
I just want to take you back to history, back in 1965, when Kenya developed the Session of Paper number 10. And this document identified small businesses, though then they were not known as MSMEs. They were called small businesses. And the government came up with a plan, and that's how ICDC was developed, so that it can offer soft loans to small organizations that are trying to come up. Institutions like Kenya Development Bank, are also developed. And when you look at Session of Paper number 5 of 2020, it has identified 10 challenges that SMEs are facing in this country. One of them you have addressed is the issue of finances, informalities, bookkeeping, and so much. And so, as a ministry, how are you working with SMEs to address their challenges?
First of all, I want to bring you back to the Session Paper of 1965. You say 1965, isn't it? This sector was identified at that time, and at that time, Kenya Industrial Estate was actually formed. Kenya Industrial Estate was actually meant to incubate these small businesses. ICDC was more advanced. It was now after you have been incubated with small loans, even at the moment, you find that KIE, which is under this ministry, Kenya Industrial under this ministry, is still doing the same purpose. They give loans up to 20 million. You can get as low as 100,000 up to 20 million. And it is mainly mainly in the machinery sector, that is manufacturing, because we feel that with manufacturing is where we can attain one, skilled labor, and secondly, more faster development, because manufacturing is able to employ more people than this other service industry. And apart from employment, then the skills, there's more skill development than a service industry. Now, when I came here, you are aware that this particular department, this MSMEs was scattered all over in the various ministries. Some were in agriculture, some were in trade, some were in industry. Now they have all been consulted together within this ministry. So first of all, when I came here, first thing was to get the necessary manpower to drive this particular agenda. If you have looked in the press recently, we have advertised for quite a number of positions within the Public Service Commission to make sure that now we move this particular sector. Secondly, I have brought key stakeholders on board, like KEPSA, like the Association of Manufacturers, Association of Bankers, Kenya National Chamber of Commerce, and others. I brought them on board to make sure that this particular organization that has been there for a long time and have been dealing with these small businesses, we come together and they are able to tell the government what are the problems being encountered with this small business. We cannot sit here as a government and assume that we are solving the problem when we actually don't know the really problem. We can know it's finances, but is finances the only one? Or if we give them finances, are they able to sustain that particular finance? So I have come up with a platform where we are engaging the key sectors in this particular sector so that we discuss together. And in fact, I was supposed to have a meeting with them last Friday, but unfortunately, because of my commitments, I could not. But we are going to have it this Saturday so that we discuss what are their problems. And then the other issue that we are doing, as I have mentioned before, we are now doing survey to know where these people are so that we are able also to know where they are, because you might say they are in Northeastern, these particular people, when they are not there. And also know their problem, because their problems may vary from one region to the other. What the Northeastern are experiencing might not be the same, or like what Nairobi is experiencing, like what Nyanza, and so on. So that is what we are trying to work with them so that we actually now target the real problems. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You see, when you look at this industry, I mean, and you talked about the issue of informalities. And this industry is called a major one in 2012 when finally Kenya became the first country on this side of Sahara to have an act specifically targeting the SMEs. And I'm talking about the SMEs Act of 2012. 14 years down the line, has this act changed the landscape, the feel, and the voice of SMEs?
What I can really say is that it was important to have that act, the 2012 act, the small and it was now micro and small enterprises. Medium had not been added on, and we are hopeful that we shall add medium to it. One, this act created sensitized the people about this particular sector, this important sector. Secondly, the Act provided for the registrar of these small businesses. The only problem that we have had is that despite this act coming up with quite a number of issues, like SME fund, this has not been actualized. And that's why now we have various funds coming up, scattered all over, Hustler Fund, WESO, Women Fund, the Youth Fund. You see, these funds were supposed to be actually under one umbrella, under the SME authority. Unfortunately, this has not happened, and I think we must work towards that. So I feel that actually the government has made an effort, but the operationalization has not been as it had been planned within the Act.
And talking about the EAC trade fair, it's taking place in Juba.
Yeah.
What is Kenya taking to Juba?
You see, Kenya, because of the finances that are involved, we have invited all the SMEs that can afford to come. But obviously, because of finances, not many of them will come. So what the government has been doing all these years, since the inception of the protocol on small businesses, is that it has been sponsoring. And with this one, the government is going to spend 40 million to sponsor various SMEs to make sure that they come for the exhibition, which will be take about 10 days. So at the moment we have not agreed on the figure because the finances were just surveyed. But I know most of them, we had requested for 70 million, which means that if we got the money and because of the budget cut, we have got 40, so which means we will have to reduce the number. But the number has not been agreed, but I'm hopeful that quite a number will be on board and quite a number will be able to afford themselves to come.
In terms of the number of SMEs, that will be coming to Juba, you've said that the government is yet to agree on how many are coming. But which sectors do you think are likely to be represented during the trade fair?
We select all the sectors, but the most predominant sector is the manufacturing. Yeah, because manufacturing, you are able to show the quality of your goods. You have also to show the innovation, at least the innovation that you are using. So that's the main sector.
Mm-hmm. And what is your message to the SMEs or small businesses that are watching you and just wondering how is the government going to come through for them?
What I can tell the MSMEs is that the government has identified them as a major catalyst for development in this country. One, creation of wealth, making sure that money is in the pockets of people, creating employment for the people, innovation within the country, creating innovation, and also creating skills. People acquire skills within the small business. Government has identified this, and government is ready to capacity build them, for them to progress. Government is ready to make sure that they have access to finances. Government is ready to explore markets, whether local or international, to make sure that those markets are there. And as happy as we talk now, there are youths, about 4 youths who have come together, and they are aggregating these small business products to export within East Africa. And we are going to launch 50 trucks, imagine 50 trucks, on the 7th of next month, of this small, for the products from SMEs that will be exported to Congo, DRC Congo, to Uganda, to Tanzania, and even as far as Ghana. So you can see the government is doing quite a lot. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think this particular session is important to them if they are listening, that we are also sensitizing them to know that here is an opportunity. Because if you are sitting in the house, you cannot know this opportunity. You must come out and see what others are doing. But we shall also make sure that we sensitize them across the country. We have already come up with a program where we'll go to every county to talk to them and also identify where they are and see peculiar problems that are within that region that we will be going to.
And as we come to the end of this interview, I also want to find out, when you look at most SMEs, their market is domestic market. Yet, when you look at the EAC, with about 8 countries and a population of almost 450 million people, and when you look at Africa, a continent of more than 1.2 billion people, with an economy the size of $1.3 trillion US, it's huge. Yeah. What are we doing to tell the our small businesses that look here, look for markets beyond Kenya for your products?
You see, what is important for them is that you must establish yourself locally first. You must establish yourself locally. You can't start off and start looking at the international markets, because before you export to the international market, the Bureau of Standards must come in, must certify your products. So if you are not trading within your own country and having comparisons, going for shows, ask shows and displaying your product, you cannot know how far you are, and you can also know that you cannot know that you can also export. Like the ones going to Juba, all of them must be certified by standards, Kenya National Standards, Bureau of Standards, Kenya Bureau of Standards must be certified. So for a startup, the local market is important before you go for international. And now international, when you go to international, like what we are going to do in Southern Sudan, next year it will be here in Kenya, is when now you know that you can now improve your product or have now innovations. Innovations now come in. So local market, number one, before you go to external international market.
Is there any other message that you have for the small businesses?
Let's use this opportunity to urge the young people that the government has given you an opportunity. Because I will plead with you, don't squander this opportunity. Not everybody can be employed, but nearly everybody can acquire skills to be an entrepreneur. And that's what we are doing as government.
Bwana Waziri, thank you very much indeed for joining us and for your insight.
Okay.
Asante. We've been talking to the Cabinet Secretary for Cooperatives and MSMEs Development. This is FCPA Wycliffe Oparanya. His message is, SMEs, do not squander the opportunities presented to you by the government. Use it to advance and, of course, to develop your business. You have been watching Inside Government. My name is O'Brien Kimani. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Asante sana.